Hey guys, MCRock here. Anyway, with the revisions on the 5 worst video game controllers, I have changed it to 10, being there are so many crappy ones out there. Anyway, yes, this one's not as biased. The old one was just retarded. That's why I audio swapped it and stuff. So, starting now. We are starting with the best of the worst. First on my list is the N64. Remember, this is just opinion, and hear me out. A lot of people liked this one, but personally, I didn't. Well, it did have some good things, such as the Z button, and a lot of people think it invented analog. However, they're actually mistaken. An analog can be found on both the Philips CDI remote and the European version of the Atari 7800 controller. The thing that really bothered me about this controller is the three prongs on it. I mean, what? Do people in Japan have three arms, a third one just shooting out of their chest? And then the D-pad and the analog position should be switched. Other than that, it was a fair controller. Number 9 on my list is the Sega Master System. A lot of people also like this one, but again, it's just opinion. A good thing about it is it was so simple. It had a D-pad and two buttons, nothing more. So now you're thinking, two buttons, A and B. Where's the pause button? On the system. Don't know what they were thinking there. This controller didn't have just four directions on the D-pad, like up, down, left, and right. It also had diagonals, like up, right, and down, left. This would make games that require precision, like an R-Type, hard to play. One last thing about this controller was there was a million variations. Nintendo had four controllers exactly that were officially licensed. The Master System had the original Master System controller, the Master System controller with a little joystick coming out of the D-pad, the control stick, the sports pad, and a few more. Number 8 on my list today is the Atari 7800, the NTSC version, not the Europe version. It really didn't have anything good about it, other than there was a European version you could replace it with. It's hard to believe Atari didn't learn their lesson with the 5200 controller. It still has that awkward shape and joystick. Also, the buttons are on the side instead of on top of the controller. It's really weird. Number 7 on the list today is the Intellivision controller. Well, the games were pretty simple, so the controller could be pretty simple. Basically, this controller has a disc and a numeric keypad. Kinda looks like a phone. Thankfully, on the numeric keypad, they had overlays to help you know what button did what. The main problem with this controller is the weird disc thing. I mean, it's not a joystick, it's not an analog, it's not a D-pad. It's a frickin' disc shaped like a CD. I mean, that's gotta be hard to control. Number 6 on the list is the original Xbox controller, also known as the Duke. There was really nothing good about this controller. It had a huge Xbox label, and the controller was even bigger. The buttons were way too close together, and had some random ones up top on, like, white and black. They didn't even have labels. Also, you need some weird adapter to get into the Xbox itself. I mean, you have a controller with a hookup. Why can that not hook up directly to the system? That's retarded! Number 5 on the list today is the CDI remote. It had some pretty cool features like the wireless versions, and as I mentioned before, it had an analog before the N64 did. But it was so weird, look at this thing. The layout of the buttons was bad. Buttons surrounding the analog means you couldn't press them as well. Also, it looks like a TV remote. I mean, it's even got pause and play buttons. What the heck? This is a video game, not a DVD. Thankfully, it had a few other models to make up for it, like my favorite, the touchpad controller. There are even some cords that can let you use Genesis on the system. Number 4 on my list is the Super Advantage. This thing looks pretty promising at first, with its turbo switches and its controls everywhere, and even a slow button. But as soon as you start playing, you'll notice the problems. First off, the slow button does not work. All it does is rapidly pause and unpause the game. For some games, this may work, but for many, like Mario All-Stars, it's broken. Another weird thing about it is it had a joystick. This is the 1990s, you're supposed to be using D-pads. The buttons are the size of quarters, and the thing is bigger than the Super Nintendo itself. Each little dial here has three options: off, turbo, and auto. So you think off would do nothing, turbo would press it quickly, and auto would hold it, right? But no, auto does nothing and turbo barely presses it. Lots of people would think turbo would work for games like F-Zero to hold the gas, but it doesn't go fast enough. It won't even let you run on Mario. Final verdict, it's a piece of crap. 3 on my list today is the Atari Jaguar. In other words, the Atari piece of crap. There really are no pros for this controller. Remind you of the Xbox controller? It probably should, because they're the same size. For some reason, this thing had a number pad in the late 1990s. Come on, people. Our controllers aren't phones. Basically, this thing just plain sucked and should have never been allowed to see the light of day. Hey, great job, Atari. You managed to make 3 of your 4 controllers on our list today. Anyway, the Atari 5200 is at number 2. It had some innovations like a pause button, which is really the only one, but there were so many cons. It was hard to hold, it didn't recenter properly, and it breaks after only a few hours of play. This thing's notorious for being one of the worst controllers ever, and you can see why. I love the Power Glove. It's so bad. Famous words from the wizard. And when they say bad, they mean, well, bad. The Power Glove may have looked cool and been a new idea, but it really didn't go over well. One problem was you needed random codes to get it to work with any given game, but everyone's main problem with this thing is it didn't work. Every different game had a random control set where you would go up or down or squeeze your hand to attack, and it was really a mess and often didn't even respond. That makes the Power Glove the worst controller ever. Thank you for watching my revisions on the 10 worst video game controllers. Stay tuned for my review on the 10 best systems ever.